Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Shodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari If everyone would please like to repeat after me, we will just chant some invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We will be reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 53. So I'll just say the Sanskrit. Shruti vipratipannate yada stasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhis tada yogam avapsyasi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained divine consciousness. To say that one is in samadhi is to say that one has fully realized Krishna consciousness. That is, one in full samadhi has realized Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. The highest perfection of self-realization is to understand that one is eternally the servitor of Krishna, and that one's only business is to discharge one's duties in Krishna consciousness. A Krishna-conscious person or unflinching devotee of the Lord should not be disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, nor be engaged in fruitive activities for promotion to the heavenly kingdom. In Krishna consciousness, one comes directly into communion with Krishna, and thus all directions from Krishna may be understood in that transcendental state. One is sure to achieve results by such activities and attain conclusive knowledge. One has only to carry out the orders of Krishna or his representative, the spiritual master. So before we begin, we will just recite some invocation prayers for ask for blessings so that we may be able to speak something of value. So if you know the words, you may join along. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you everyone for coming to the Bhagavad Gita class this evening at Bhaktivedanta Mana. So the verse here says, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So here the verse is saying that Krishna is instructing Arjun to control the mind. He is saying that, he's implying that when the mind is not disturbed, that is when we will be happy. That is when we will be happy. So before we begin, maybe I just kind of go through some background, some setting the scene, what is actually happening at this point in the Gita. We're still fairly towards just the beginning, very beginning part. So the Gita was set on a battlefield, and we won't go into the reason why it was set on a battlefield. It's due to some sort of enmity between family members, like that. There was some sort of quarrel, and there were two parties, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, who were cousin brothers. And the Pandavas were the rightful heir to the throne, but somehow or other, the Kauravas usurped the kingdom, and therefore the Pandavas wanted to reclaim what was rightfully theirs, just so they can perform their prescribed duty of being a warrior, a Kshatriya or administrator. So in that way, at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, we see how both armies are prepared and they're ready to fight. The very first verse of Bhagavad Gita says, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsva Mamaka Pandavascheva Kimakurvat Sanjay. Dhritarashtra, who is the father of the Kauravas, is asking Sanjay, what they've assembled at the battlefield, what did they do? My party and the Pandavas, what did they do? And then Sanjay goes on to explain that Krishna and Arjuna are there on Arjun's chariot. Krishna is the chariot driver. And to assess his opponent, which is natural, Arjuna asks Krishna to draw his chariot to the middle of the field so that he can see his opponents and assess his opposition. And when Krishna takes the chariot to the middle of the field, Arjuna sees many of his relatives, many of his teachers, many people that had great influence over him, many people that he respected, and many relationships he could see that he very much cherished. For example, he saw people like Drona. Now, Dronacharya was the teacher of Arjun. He was the one who taught Arjun martial skills. Arjun is famous as an excellent archer. He's very good with a bow and arrow. And these skills were taught to him by Dronacharya. Another example of a significant personality on the opposing side of Arjun is his grandfather, Bhishma. Bhishma was the grandfather of the entire dynasty and is very much well respected. Bhishma practically brought up the Pandavas because the Pandavas' father, Pandu, died unfortunately at an early age when the kids were just children. Yeah, when Pandava's sons were just mere children, that's when Pandu passed away, and therefore Bhishma Dev practically raised the Pandavas. He also saw his uncle Dhritarashtra, well, Dhritarashtra's son. He didn't see Dhritarashtra, but he saw Dhritarashtra's sons. He had 100 sons, of whom chief was Duryodhana. So he saw all these members of his family, and seeing such members, seeing such scenes, seeing such relationships, his heart, because it was so soft, was overwhelmed with compassion. Because he saw such personalities, he no longer wanted to fight. And in the early part of second chapter and later part of chapter 1, Arjun describes quite a few reasons as to why he doesn't want to fight. And the entire Bhagavad Gita is then spoken just to clarify this doubt that Arjun had. And throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjun, therefore get up and fight. You'll find in the 7th chapter, in the last chapter, in many other chapters also. Throughout the Gita, Krishna is constantly saying, therefore get up and fight. And so the entire Bhagavad Gita was practically spoken to convince Arjun to fight. So this Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is, because this Prabhupada, who has commented on the Bhagavad Gita here, has described it as it is. There are some commentators who want to fulfill ulterior motives. They want to establish their own philosophy through the Bhagavad Gita. They have some other conceptions, some other thoughts, some other ideas, and they want to use the Bhagavad Gita to present such ideas and philosophy. But what is special about Bhagavad Gita as it is that it is as it is, as the name suggests. That there is no other interpretation or connotations or concoctions that have come out. It is simply what is being said is being said. There is nothing more added into it. And therefore this makes Bhagavad Gita as it is a very authentic and authoritative presentation of the Bhagavad Gita. For example, there are some who try to propound the philosophy of non-violence through Bhagavad Gita. They try to convince others and preach non-violence. But logically this doesn't make sense, because the Bhagavad Gita was set on a battlefield. How can Bhagavad Gita be a philosophy of non-violence? Because it's set on a battlefield. And Krishna is repeatedly saying, Tasmad yudhyasva bharata, therefore get up and fight. Ma manusmara yudhyacha, remember me and fight. He's saying repeatedly, get up and fight. Now, we're not saying that we should be violent, but the idea here is that sometimes violence is necessary. Not all the times. We should exercise our discretion and be thoughtful and not be unnecessarily violent. But non-violence in all cases, all circumstances, and all places is clearly not the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna is telling Arjun to fight. So in that way, this Bhagavad Gita as it is, very authentic and authoritative presentation of the Bhagavad Gita. So coming back to the original point of the setting the scene. So Arjun gives various reasons as to why he doesn't want to fight or why he shouldn't fight. One of those reasons, for example, is that Hilinka sinful reactions. To kill someone is a great sin, and therefore Hilinka sin. And Krishna defeats this argument by saying that actually your nature is to be a warrior. That is your position in society. In society, in the Bhagavad Gita is described that there are 4 social orders. They are known as Varnas. The first is the Brahminical class, which is the teachers of society, those that lead society, those that are the spiritual leaders of society, the intelligent class of men. The second class is Kshatriyas, or the warrior class of men, the administrators, like that. Third class Vaishyas, who are merchants, the mercantile class of men, or even the farmers, like that. Those who cultivate the land, protect cows. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. And then the final class of men is the Shudra class of men, or the laborer class of men, who help in serving the other divisions of society. And these divisions are actually very scientific. If we look at it, then these divisions are also there present today. Like you see, some people, they're very intellectual. If we translate it in today, like the research and development department of a company is like the Brahminical class of men. It's like the Brahminical occupation. Kshatriya occupation is like some people are just more ready to fight. A Kshatriya's nature is to fight for a right and worthy cause. And therefore you see that some people are just able to do that much better than others. And therefore they have their particular nature is more inclined towards a Kshatriya or a warrior or an administrator. An administrator is required to lead. He's required to manage different people, tasks, especially like, for example, a government post. So that is a Kshatriya kind of activity. And Vaishya, we see some people are just more business-minded than others. Some people who aren't business-minded, they try to do some business, they begin a startup, but because it's not their nature, it just never works out. They're not as fruitful as someone else may be, simply because the nature is different. And that's not to say that one is better than the other. All of them are required in society. But the principle is that we are all different. We are all individual and we're all unique. And we have different strengths and we have different weaknesses. We have different skills and different assets. So these assets can be broadly divided into these four categories. And like I mentioned, these four categories, they are not to put one down, because it's described in the Vedic literatures that the Brahmanas are like a head, the Kshatriyas are like the arms, the Vaishyas are like the belly, and the Shudras are like the feet, the legs. Now, if we look at this social construct of society, if we remove any one part, then the entire society is no longer able to function as smoothly. For example, if you remove Brahmanas, with the analogy I just gave of the body, if you cut the head off, then the body is no longer able to function. Now, if we get rid of Kshatriyas, for example, in society, then it's like cutting the arms off of society. How can society function, or how can a body function without arms? Similarly, if the belly is taken away, how can the society be nourished? And similarly, if the legs are taken away, how can society move places? How can the body move to places? Legs are required. And these divisions, they are actually not determined by birth, but they are determined by quality and work. Whatever quality one exhibits and whatever type of work or occupation one engages in. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Varnam Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, that these four varnas, they come from me. Krishna has actually inaugurated this system, this varnashram system that I'm speaking about. This is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. And he clarifies that, okay, how do I know what situation or what varna or what kind of occupational duty do I fit in? And so Krishna says by quality and work. one has to assess that what kind of inherent qualities are within oneself and what kind of occupation is one more inclined to. Some people are more inclined to certain occupations than others. And it's natural to find such differences in inclinations in society. Like sometimes people are just more inclined and more better at mathematical subjects in school. And some people are just more inclined to literary subjects like English or history. And those that are good at literary subjects may not be so good at mathematical subjects. So such differences are natural, and therefore, whatever one's nature is, one should act accordingly. And this is why Krishna is advising Arjun to fight, because Arjun's nature is that of a Kshatriya. And because his nature is that of a Kshatriya, he should fight. Not only that he should fight, but he's also fighting on right grounds. Because they tried before the war started, the battle started, both Pandava's party, Arjuna's party, they tried their best to prevent the war, to settle the disagreement in a peaceful manner. But despite all efforts, they were not able to succeed. And therefore, battle was inevitable. And therefore, Krishna is advising Arjun to fight. Now here, Krishna is saying that our mind should be steady. Our mind should be calmed. And when our mind is calm, then we can be fixed. See, in today's society, there are many distractions. Like, for example, I have Instagram. Who here has Instagram? Raise your hands. Anyone have Instagram? Okay, a few hands. Okay, as I look, more hands are going up. Maybe some are shy. So when I was studying, I would study, I'd be writing, and then like 10 minutes later, I'd pick up my phone and start going on Instagram. So I got distracted. So in that way, maybe you also have a similar experience of distractions. Many distractions can be there, and they can provide sometimes very lucrative incentives, seemingly. And so this is an example of the mind becoming distracted. And if we absorb, if we kind of reflect, then we can notice that our mind is quite turbulent, that our mind is going here and there, everywhere. It's difficult to concentrate the mind on one thing. Now it's said that our attention span is decreasing. Even, I can't exactly recall the statistics, but I did once hear that our attention span is less than it was before. And so this is just showing how our mind is becoming more and more turbulent. It's becoming more and more turbulent because there are so many unnecessary stimulants for the mind. And this unsteady mind is naturally not a nice condition or situation to be in. Because when the mind is unsteady, that means you want to do everything that you're not doing now. And when you are doing what you want to do, you no longer want to do it, and you want to do what you were doing before. So in any situation, you're not comfortable or content. Who's ever had this experience of having so many thoughts in the mind that they don't even know where to begin? Anyone? Okay, so some of you have had that experience. So naturally, the mind is a very turbulent place. It's actually like a tsunami. It's like when you're in the ocean and there's a tsunami, there's so many waves, and if you're a little small boat on that ocean, you're being tossed around everywhere, here and there. But what the Bhagavad Gita is describing is, with this perpetual turbulation, we can't be happy. And so how can we become happy? That's the idea, right? Everyone wants to be happy. Who doesn't want to be happy? Raise your hands. Okay, everyone's not raising their hands. That makes me happy. Even the Vedic literatures, the Vedanta Sutra says, Anandamaya Abhyasat. Naturally, we are all pleasure seeking entities. We all want to enjoy, we all want to be happy. And so the Bhagavad Gita describes that how can we become happy? The answer is that if we go deeper in the ocean, there may be a tsunami at the top, but if we take a submarine and go deeper and deeper, then gradually the waves will become calmer. And when we get to a certain point, there will be no turbulence anymore. Then there will be steadiness, there will be calmness, there will be peace of mind. And so when we go deeper in spiritual life, we'll find that we're better able to control the mind. Now comes the question that how do we control the mind? First we understand that a turbulent mind is no good. It doesn't help us in any way. A turbulent mind doesn't help us because we're not actually able to carry out something in full. We're not actually able to go the full way. For example, if I'm reading a book, say it's like a really small book or an article, say it'll take me like half an hour to read or something, 10 pages. If I have a turbulent mind, then while I am reading the book, I may become distracted easily. My mind may go to, okay, what's for dinner? And then you'll start thinking of dinner. And then you'll think, or you may think, I'll make pizza this evening. Okay, so what should I put on the pizza? I'll put this topping, I'll put that topping. Oh wait, but I don't know how long I should put it in the oven for. And then the mind just continues and continues. Next thing you know, it's been an hour and you've only read one page. So in that way, a turbulent mind, for one who has a turbulent mind, it is difficult to actually complete the task. The other aspect of a turbulent mind is that you're constantly distressed because you're worried about what will happen and what will not happen, what has happened and what's going to happen. To translate that, it means that one cannot live in the present because the mind is too worried about living in the past or living in the future. And in that way, in a world where there are almost unlimited possibilities, the mind is constantly worrying. So now the question comes, how do we control the mind? How can we make it that our mind is no longer disturbed? Here is described that the mind is disturbed by flowery language of the Vedas. What does flowery language of the Vedas mean? The Vedas are a vast ocean of literature. Within the Vedic literatures, there are many branches and sub-branches. And mostly the Vedic literature deal with something known as karma kanda. Karma kanda is such that one performs some sort of ritual so that they may get some benefit in return. And that benefit is usually in the form of, for example, elevation to higher planets. There's actually a verse. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, here it is. Yamimam pushpitam vacha pravadyanti avipaschitaha vedvadrita parthananyadastiti vadina kamatmana swargapra janma karma phalapratan kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwarya gatim prati. So here is described that men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas. So this is what the verse is referring to, which recommends various fruitive activities. What are fruitive activities? Fruitive activities are such where, like I mentioned, you perform an activity and you expect something in return. You expect some sort of gain or some sort of pleasure in return. Elevation to the higher planets result in good birth, power, and so forth. So in the sense that if I do this now, then maybe I'll get a better opportunity to enjoy later on. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So this sounds good, right? Who thinks it sounds good? Good birth, enjoyment, heavenly planets. No one thinks it's good? Okay, few people think it's good. I'd be surprised if you don't think it's good. I think it's good. No, it's good. Good birth means that you are raised in a family which is wealthy, which has good opportunities for education, good opportunities for career, good opportunities for enjoyment. Not a good birth means, for example, you get placed in a position where it's very difficult to even maintain yourself. It's very difficult to get an education, very difficult family relations like this. So, here it said that the mind is disturbed by these things. The mind is disturbed because these are all material desires. These are all material desires. Now actually, the Bhagavad Gita describes that material desires cannot actually fulfill the heart's calling. Krishna describes yehi samsparsha jabhoga dukkhayo evate adyantavanta kaunteya nate shuramate buddha, that these material desires are called material because they relate to the material body. They relate to this body and the senses. But Krishna describes in the earlier part of the Gita that our identity is not the body. Our identity is the spirit soul. Like for example, denosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra numuyati. Like as a young child, they grow into a boy. The boy grows into an adolescent, an old man. The body is changing, but the individual is the soul. Another example is given of clothing, just the same way that we discard old clothing at the end of the day and put on new clothing at the beginning of the day. In the same way, the living entity, once their body is old, used, no longer functioning, they give up the body and they take up a new one. So like that, our identity is the spirit soul. And because our identity is the spirit soul, whatever satisfaction or enjoyment we receive on the bodily platform will be temporary. It won't last. Why will it not last? Because your body won't last. Because ultimately at one point or another, you will have to die. And I will have to die. You may come first, or I may come first. Or you may come last, or I may come last. But ultimately at one point, you will have to go. It's not nice. It's not nice. And who thinks it's nice that I gotta go at one point? Who thinks it's not nice? So, okay, nice to see you're on the same page. It's not nice. And it's natural to think it's not nice because our inherent nature is eternal. Our identity is spirit soul. And therefore, because the spirit soul is eternal, it cannot be destroyed. There never was a time where the spirit soul didn't exist, and never will there be a time where it won't exist. Its individuality remains and it's eternal. Can't be cut by anything, burned by fire. Many examples are given in the Bhagavad Gita. And so, because the spirit soul is eternal, naturally we also want to live eternally. We don't want to die, because that is our nature. But we have to leave this body at one point or another. And therefore, these material desires, they mean that we are running after something that is temporary. That is temporary. It may be nice in the moment, but it won't last. And if it won't last, what about after? What next? See, for example, if we have some tasty food, we may enjoy the taste for 5 minutes. And that is nice. No doubt. That is nice. But what about after the 5 minutes? What will you do? Where is the enjoyment? It's temporary. That taste is temporary. And because that taste is temporary, when we don't have it, we want something else. It's not constant. And because we want something else, our mind is chasing after it. And because our mind is chasing after it, our mind is restless. That is why Krishna is saying, when your mind is no longer disturbed by flowery language of the Vedas, when our mind is no longer disturbed by material desires and hankerings which lead the mind to continuously think and plan of how I can obtain this or gain this or acquire, possess. In that way, when that planning for material possessions, acquisitions, power and position, when that stops, then the mind can be peaceful. So now you may ask that, but these are nice things. Like, for example, I like having gulab jamus. Who likes gulab jamus? Okay, I think this is the most hands I've seen throughout the whole. I like gulab jamus as well. So when I have a gulab jamun, I like the taste. So are you telling me not to have gulab jamus? Not necessarily that, but what I'm saying is that when we have something tasty, then we'll want something more after. Like, if someone could say that you can constantly eat gulab jamus 24 hours a day, non-stop, who would agree to that proposal? Who thinks it's a nice idea? Yes, one person thinks it's a nice idea. I think it's a nice idea as well. If someone gave me the option, I would say yes. But the issue is, I only have one stomach, and it can only take about maybe 5. And after 5, I can't take any more. Maybe some can go more. Maybe some can do 20. I've heard about 35 before. That's pretty impressive. So the issue is, how much can I take? I can't take so much. I'm also a small guy. So there's only so much I can have. What next? And because we have that pleasure, and we're pleasure seeking, we want something more. So the idea is, what next? And when we control the mind, and when we kind of come to Krishna consciousness, then it's like a continuous flow of gulab jamus. Because we're not looking on the surface level, we're looking on the deeper level. Like I gave that example of the boat on a tsunami. It's really turbulent, it's flying here and there, everywhere. But when you have a submarine that's deep in the ocean, it's steady and calm. So in that way, when we try to find satisfaction and contentment within ourselves on a deeper level, on a spiritual level, that's where we can relish pleasure which is not temporary, which will continuously last. And the amazing thing about this is that it doesn't depend on external circumstances. When one cultivates spiritual knowledge, then regardless of what one's external situation is, whether one is in distress or happiness externally, then one can still remain fixed and steady. Like for example, when someone's in a submarine deep under the sea, whether there's a tsunami or not on the top, it doesn't matter. They are still fixed, calm and steady. Like that. So now the question comes that how do we get to that point where we go deeper? The first thing we should understand is the value and importance of spiritual life. Now, we're almost running out of time. I have like 3 minutes left. So maybe we'll like just pause here. Anyway, to kind of just sum it up, if you want to know the importance of spiritual life, you should read this book. It's called Bhagavad Gita, as it is. It's quite a long book. It's 700 pages, 700 verses rather. But it's a very nice book, and it's very meaningful and very applicable in life. It's not that just because it was spoken so many years ago that it's not relevant today. It's also relevant today because Arjun was also stressed. Sometimes we're also stressed. Arjun was anxious. We are also sometimes anxious. Arjun's mind was disturbed. Our mind is also sometimes disturbed. So the same problems are there, and the solutions are in the book. So if you don't already have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, you can get one from the reception. So maybe if there's any questions, comments, or reflections that anyone would like to share, then maybe, we'd love to hear. Yes. Yes. Expectations in relation to work? Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's just the time was more of an issue. But I think we have to perform our functions and duties in society. We have particular roles, and therefore these functions and duties should be performed. We should try, if we're a husband, we should try to be a good husband. If we're a wife, we should try to be a good wife. If we're a son, we should try to be a good son. If we're an employee, we should try to be a good employee. If we're an employer, we should try to be a good employer. But but the difference is we should try to be detached. Detached meaning that I will try my best but leave the rest, so that one is not disturbed with the outcome. That I will do the job interview to my best attempt, but whether or not I get the job, I don't mind, because I'm not attached. I'm detached. And Krishna advises that at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita 2:14. But now, because Aarti started, we will conclude. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki.
Hari 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 Kiva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chandre Arati Kosho Kiva Jayo Chandre Arati Kosho Jayo Gora Chandre Jana Vitatavane Jagamanalo Jagamanalo Dhakine Nitai Chan Vame Gadadhara Dhakine Nitai Chan Vame Gadadhara Vikateya Dekashini Vasa Chatradara Hoshi Ache Gora Chan Ratna Simhashan Chin আছে গৌরাচার আরতি করে না হরি দেব জানে হরিয়াদি করি হরিয়াদি করি মারাদুলায় সঞ্জয়া মুকুন্দ ভাসু ঘোষাধিগায় সঞ্জয় মুকুন্দ শঙ্খ বাজে গন্ধ বাজে বাজে করতালা বাজে গন্ধ বাজে বাজে করতালা মাধুরা মৃদঙ্গ বাজে পরমারসালা ভাজে পরমারসালা শঙ্খ বাজে কণ্ঠ বাজে মাধুর 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 বাজে কণ্ঠ বাজে শঙ্খ বাজে গন্ধ বাজে মাধুর 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 বাজে মাধুর 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 জয় গৌরানিতায় জয় গৌরানিতায় গৌরানিতায় জয় গৌরানিতায় বাহু কোটি চন্দ্রজিনী বদন উচ্ছল কোটি চন্দ্রজিনী গালারে শেবানমালা করে ঝলমালা শিব শিব শুকনারা প্রেমে গদা শুকনারা ভক্তি বিনোধে গৌরারা সম্পাদা ভক্তি বিনোদ গৌরাঙ্গের আরতি শোভা জগ জনমানা লোভা আরতি শোভা জগ জনমানা লোভা জগ জনমানা লোভা জনমানা গৌরা হরি বল হরি বল হরি বল গৌরা হরি বল গৌরা नमो विष्णुपदाय Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Hari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Louder Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare,
Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare, oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopal Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopal Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopal Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopal Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Radha Ramana Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Shri Radhe, Radha Gokula Nanda, Radha Gokula Nanda, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman,
Jaya Sita
Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya.
Jaya Vishnupad Brahmans Prabhupada Astatar, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giridhardhan ki Jai, Mayapur Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Bhakti Devi ki Jai, Samvit Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I request everyone to sit down, please, for the short Nrsimhadev prayers. Thank you. Namaste Narsingahaya. Namaste Narsingahaya. Prahlad Lad Daine, Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha, शीलाटंका न खालाए इतो नरसिंह परता नरसिंह यतो यतो यमि ततो नरसिंह बहे नरसिंह हृदय नरसिंह नरसिंहमदीं शरणं प्रपदे तव कर कमल वरे नखा अद्भुत नरसिंह दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरे नखा अद्भुत नरसिंहा ललिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद नृसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर आरती की जय भक्ति वेदांत मेरा नाम की जय बोल प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
राजू क्या